All right, good morning. We have a fairly full dais this morning, which is nice to see for a change. So we'll go ahead and call to order the Wednesday, September 27th, 2023 meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District, Sacramento Area Sewer District, Sacramento County Sanitation Districts Financing Authority at 9:35 a.m. Ask for a roll call, please.
Good morning. Member Aquino?
Here.
Karpinski Costa?
Present.
Desmond?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Hume?
Here.
Kaplan?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Maple?
Here.
Robles?
Here.
Cerna?
Here.
Swen?
Here.
And Villegas? Here. And you have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Would you please address the flag and join Director Maple in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and now if the clerk would please read that item on public comment procedures and compensation.
Thank you. This meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District is being broadcast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T U-verse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will replay Sunday, October 1st at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. In accordance with Government Code 54952.3, compensation for meeting of these legislative bodies is required to be verbally disclosed. The amount of $100 will be paid for each member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District, and the amount of $100 will be paid for each board member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Area Sewer District. Compensation for Sacramento County supervisors and City of Sacramento council members is paid to the county and city respectively to partially offset the costs of those governments. Compensation for other board members is delivered to the individuals. To make an in-person public comment, please complete a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk. The chairperson will call your name when it is your turn to make a comment. To make a public comment by phone, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in queue for a specific agenda or off-agenda item. Clerk staff will transfer each caller into the meeting. You may be on hold for an extended period of time, and your patience is appreciated. You may also send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. And that concludes the announcements.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will move on to the first item on our agenda. It is a consent matter. Anybody have any comments or questions about the consent? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Director Desmond, and I heard Director Suen first. All those in favor, I guess, are we voting electronically or by voice?
Oh, sorry. Yes, but electronically, please. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. And now we will move on to item 2, which is comments from the public on issues not posted on the agenda. I don't believe I see any members of the public in the audience.
None. We have not received any, and we do not have anyone in the queue.
Very good. We'll dispense with that. Move on to the separate matters. Item number 3, please.
Item number 3 is the Echo Water Resource Recovery Facility Biosolids Emergency Declaration and Emergency Action. This was continued from September 13, 2023. Item number 5.
Okay, we have a full dais. Do we have enough people to hear this item finally?
We don't quite. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 13. We need 14. And really that's...
We need a smaller board is what we need, I think.
Let's put that on the agenda.
It's somewhat immaterial at this point. I'll explain. So when we started this process, I've been calling it a slow-moving emergency. It is something
no pun intended.
No, not at all. It's very serious, but it's out into the future. So we had to act immediately to make sure that future is a good one. And so that was what caused me to declare the emergency initially. Once we did that, then we had the contracting authority to do the emergency contracting. That contract is in place, and that work is beginning. At the same time, we also did, on a parallel path, a standard procurement process to get basically to fill out the full project. So we're in the middle of that procurement process, and it will be standard. There are no special requirements or emergency requirements there. So in conversation with council, we have determined basically, originally we thought that we would ask that your board continue this emergency, keep it in place in case we needed that if something else came up. But the fact is that we're having difficulty getting the 4/5 vote, and we currently don't have the situation where we need any emergency contracting. So what I would request is that you first listen to the presentation, because I want you to see the gravity of the situation and understand what's going on. But then, since you can't act on that, we'll just ask that you make a motion to drop the item, and I will be following up with a termination of the emergency, and then we'll actually do like an information-only item to your board that will just sort of wrap it all up and explain essentially what happened and that the emergency was terminated. So if that sounds like it will work for you, that's my recommendation going forward, and we'd still like to do the presentation and give you a sense of what's happening.
Very good. And Ted, we're all happy to see you, but there was a great sigh of disappointment that you weren't a 14th board member. Apologies.
It was short, that's why. We thought you might have been it.
Good morning, Board Chair and members of the board. I'm Glenn Bielefeld, the Director of Echo Water Operations Department. I'm here to speak to you about the biosolids emergency going on at the Echo Water facility. I'll give you a little overview of the biosolids management at the treatment plant and an explanation of why it was an emergency, and of course, what we're doing in response to that and the next steps. Just quickly, some of you have been out to the plant, so you know a little bit about how it's arranged, but we go through a water treatment process at the plant, obviously, and we collect solids from throughout that water treatment process. Solids specifically are collected from the primary tanks in the blue zone of that illustration there. The secondary process also produces quite a bit of solids that are wasted, and that's the green area of the process. All those solids are collected and they're sent to the digestion units, which are shown in red on this illustration. Those solids are processed in a digestion process over about 15 days, and then about 25% of the solids go to a biosolids recycling facility labeled as BRF and shown in purple on the illustration, and the other 75% are sent to solid storage basins indicated in yellow highlight there. Those are very large lagoons, and eventually those solids that are in the lagoons are harvested and they're sent to line dedicated land disposal sites indicated as LDLD. So that's basically the whole solids management process at the treatment plant in a nutshell. Having said that, we have about 20 solid storage basins, and they're effectively a wide spot in the road for the solids treatment. Again, 75% of the solids go there. They stay there for about 5 years. They break down and stabilize over that time period. The plant can only harvest the solids from those ponds in the dry part, the warm part of the year between May and October. And so the Echo Water facility is unique because the majority of the solids are land applied in a closed system. Many treatment plants have a solids processing system where they truck it off site. Having said that, again, like I mentioned, we have 75% of the solids going to those solid storage basins, and only 25% go to the BRF. So the emergency. Typically, the biosolids are moved from the BNR facility. They haven't caused a problem for us, but they unexpectedly started to cause a problem for us this year and within only a few months, starting early this spring. In effect, we found out that the digestion process wasn't as effective with the wasted sludge from the BNR facility, and that increased the amount of solids that were being sent to the solid storage basins. It was just an incremental increase, but it created a great impact on those ponds. The excess biosolids in the SSBs eventually ended up returning to the plant's headworks, and that led to a major process upset in the month of June. What was happening is the solids were coming back to the very beginning of the treatment process, the water treatment process, and they just kept circulating around in that water treatment process. In the month of June, we had a momentary loss of control, but we regained that control of the treatment plant. And we figured at that time that we were within about 30 days or 1 month of actually overflowing the solids from the water treatment process and violating our NPDES permit. So it was just in time. The interesting thing about this, and we're learning as we, as you know, we just commissioned the final phase of the Echo Water project with the tertiary treatment facility, and in May 2021, we had commissioned the BNR, so we've been using it for a little while now, but we've been learning how it works as a whole system. And what we've noticed about the solids coming from the BNR process in particular is that the volume's about the same, but the characteristics of the sludge have significantly changed. In effect, they don't seem to break, the solids from that new process don't seem to break down as easily as they used to before BNR in the digestion process. And in effect, then, it reduces this total capacity of solid storage that we have in the solid storage basins. You might ask, why didn't we notice this while the Echo Water design was in process? As you're aware, the Echo Water process substantially increased the size of the plant, but it was focused on water treatment, and solids treatment was not addressed at all in Echo Water. So we knew there would be some changes to the solids, but it wasn't anticipated to be very significant. So anyway, the disposal operations have been somewhat affected by the process, the solids that now are being processed in the digesters and sent to the solid storage basin. And that was unforeseen. I wanted to show a few pictures of what we've been seeing as we got into this, spring and later into the summer. So what we saw in December from an aerial shot we took at the plant as Echo Water was wrapping up was the ponds shown in the upper picture. The pond in the far right side of that picture is effectively a normal pond in that there's a lot of water surface on top of the pond, and that's the way it should be. The pond diagonal to it is also normal, but you can see all of the other ponds are showing what look like islands and atolls. That's the net effect of all that extra solids that seems to be coming from the digesters to the ponds at this point. Below there, you see a current picture from an aerial shot on the left. It's kind of a pretty picture, actually, but it's not the way we want the ponds to look. There's just very little water surface showing. The little spot you see right in the middle is the point where the digested solids actually enters the pond. And those solids are just not dispersing very well throughout the pond, and in fact are forming huge atolls and islands. In fact, in the upper right corner there, you can see some plants growing on some of those islands that have formed. So just a massive amount of solids have accumulated, and a much more close-up shot is shown in the lower right. You get a sense of how much it looks effectively like dirt or soil on top of ponds. Again, that's not the way it's supposed to look. So what's the current status? Well, our immediate response when we realized in June that we were returning solids back from the solid storage basins was to cap the ponds that were actually short-circuiting, if you will, and coming back to the plant. And that was the immediate response. And since then, we noticed that the rest of the water treatment processes and the digestion process have stabilized and returned to a somewhat normal status in their performance. At this point, however, the SSBs are nearly full. And the plant's harvest operation needs to be supplemented by a third party to prevent a catastrophic emergency in the winter season. Because again, if we overfill those ponds, it's just going to wash right back into the water treatment process. In total, the plant's going to need to harvest something like an additional 15,000 dry tons of biosolids from the solid storage basin. And we need to get that done before the next harvest season, which again begins in May of 2024. If we don't get that done, this problem is going to continue to happen for us. For reference, a typical harvest season for our harvest crew is about 15,000 dry tons. And this year we're actually having a record harvest. I think we're going to approach 20,000 dry tons. So we're doing a good job with the harvest, but we still have this huge 1 year of additional solids that have accumulated in these ponds since Echo Water started up. In addition, this is kind of an emergency also because they are forecasting an El Nino season, and the state is busy right now doing a lot of emergency work on levees and such to prepare for that. So likewise, we're trying to prepare as well. And as Christoph mentioned, this recommendation has changed a little bit, so I'll leave it to the board to consider what to do next. Any questions?
I'm sure there are going to be some, I would hope. Any questions for Glenn? I just have a question. Is there a possibility, I mean, obviously we get in and harvest the biosolids. Is there a way to manually move the biosolids away from the inlet so that there's more flow into the ponds?
Are you volunteering?
No. No, as my colleague to the left said, this is not an atoll I would want to visit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Snorkeling is discouraged.
Well, like I say, the characteristics of the sludge have changed. In the past, the sludge would be discharged into the ponds, and they would naturally sort of move out in all directions, and it seems like that hasn't been happening. We do have mixers in the ponds that were intended to distribute those solids, and again, it doesn't seem to be happening that well, but your question, can we manually move it around? When we're using the dredges during the summer, we're strictly just harvesting the ponds that are being emptied, if you will. We're looking at maybe using those dredges after the harvest season's over in mid-October and placing them in the ponds that have excess solids and moving those solids from 2 other ponds. The other thing is we also rented a device that's actually a mechanical mixing mobile piece of equipment. And you can drive it into these ponds and actually agitate the pond and see if we can actually distribute the solids a little more. So that's going to be arriving in the next couple of weeks. We'll experiment with that and see if it actually has a positive effect as well. So we're trying a number of things in response to what we've noticed with this change in the solids characteristics from EcoWater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Growing pains, if you will. Any other questions? Director Kaplan?
Thank you. I know this is new because the Echo Water Treatment Plant is new, but, and you did mention that you can't necessarily look at other facilities and how the difference in the biosolids have affected our sanitation district. Are you planning on coming back to basically say, this is what we've learned, this is how we're going, what the next steps are as we go into the next harvest season?
Well, internally, we are certainly keeping an eye on everything that's happening with this emergency and how we're responding to it. And on the farther horizon, we want to learn from this and see if we can adjust the way we handle our solids treatment process and do it better. We hadn't planned on coming back to the board with any of those internal documents that we're preparing for ourselves, but that's up to you if you'd like to hear more about it.
Just thought process, because this got close to being an overflow, and just even if it's just an oral report of this is what we've learned, these are the steps that we're taking, just for transparency and accountability purposes.
I think that's a good idea, and we can, one of the things that we have to also consider is, so we've got this giant backlog right now of solids. We're going to bring that down both with our own staff and with the help of the contracting. But that doesn't mean that this problem doesn't continue. It's always going to be there. There's now a higher volume of solids. So although it's not going to be an emergency, we're going to have a plan for how we handle that additional level of solids. So I think that's something that we could at least discuss kind of what our future looks like there too.
Just how to mitigate any future emergencies. If we know the solids have changed, what have we learned from that, and how are we going to adjust for going forward?
We can do that, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Director Villegas.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, you mentioned earlier the MPDES permit that we sort of pushed upon within 30 days of some potential violations. I know we're in the middle, I think, in the middle of the 10-year permitting approvals that we have, moment, give or take, doesn't matter. So are there other ramifications in light of what you're considering that would affect the MPDES permit? I know that's been the driver for so much of what we've had to do over the last 20 years, certainly in terms of the expansion and the tertiary treatment. Is that more, is there more behind that MPDES permit scares that we have? Or?
No, there's nothing more. I mean,
Okay.
in particular, this was a solids issue, and the accumulation of solids within the treatment process had the potential of washing out of the system at some point and just making its way into the effluent. At that point, we would have exceeded our limitations for solids discharge to the river, and that would be a violation.
Understood.
So that's the primary problem.
Understood. Fair enough. Yeah, that was one of the drivers behind West Sacramento joining the district many years ago.
Yep.
Because of the repeated situation you just described. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so it sounds like we avoided the emergency, but there's ongoing adaptations that will need to be made, and we will continue that work. So we need a motion to just drop this item, not continue it to uncertain.
Yes, and just to provide some clarity, the statute requires that in order to continue the emergency, that we bring it to the next available regularly scheduled meeting. And so that's what we've been doing. But since we're not going to continue the emergency, that's why it's okay to go ahead and drop it.
Okay. Is there a motion to drop this item then?
Yeah. Second. So moved.
We'll take the second, and the first. Director Suen and Director Desmond. Everybody vote, please.
And the motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great,
There were no
thank you.
public comments on that item either.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you for that.
No. Thank you.
Okay, on to item number 4, please.
Item number 4, you are acting as the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District. This is the status of award, certification of environmental documentation, and approval of the biogeneration facility project.
Could you
cue the presentation for item 4. Thank you. All right. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. I'm Steve Nabazic, and I'm here today to present on the biogeneration facility project. So I'm going to start off with project development background. I'm going to provide some updates on all the work we've completed since we last presented to your board in September of 2022. Then I'll discuss the CEQA findings, request approval of the proposed project, and the associated environmental documents, and I'll close out with next steps. So as we start the discussion on project development, I think it's important to note that this is a fixed price design build procurement. It's not the traditional design bid build that we implement. We chose design build with the goal of providing schedule efficiency and cost predictability and the ability to transfer risk at project startup with extended commissioning and performance guarantees. So we initiated the two-step process required by the design build statute and issued a request for qualifications last October. And that was shortly after incorporating your board's feedback that we received at our last September discussion. 3 firms were shortlisted in February. We issued requests for proposals in March and received proposals in July and recently issued the notice of intent to award. So the proposals were scored on price and technical merit. Our request for proposals essentially laid out the project's minimum requirements essential to the treatment plant's operation. And the design build teams considered that information. We had some structured interactions with them and our internal team to help them develop their proposals, and then they proposed their best solution. And those proposals scored price again and technical. Price was 40 points of the proposal scoring. That included the design build price, the extended commissioning price. That's where the DB team is going to operate this facility for 1 year. They're going to hit performance targets. They're going to integrate with our staff. They're going to get us ready to take the operations over smoothly and seamlessly after the 1 year of operations. And the final component of the price scoring is the 10-year warranty and maintenance price. There was the majority of the points scored technical merit, 60 points. It includes the DB team's ability to demonstrate how their proposal met or exceeded our minimum requirements and how it's going to deliver the best value to regional sand. The proposal rankings and scores are presented in this slide, and I'll just let you soak that in. Amoresco was ranked highest overall for this best value selection. We issued, as I mentioned, we issued the notice of intent to award. That was issued on September 7th, and no protests were filed by the deadline. So the proposed Biogen project is going to include 13.4 megawatts total installed capacity that will be achieved using internal combustion engine generators and fuel cell technology. It also includes future hydrogen capability through the fuel cell trigeneration capability. And I'm going to be jumping to CEQA next, so I guess just a little bit more information. Of the 3 proposals we received, 2 of those were all engine projects. This one was the one what we called a hybrid alternative, where it combined both technologies. And no, so you know, by process of elimination, we didn't receive any proposals for all fuel cells.
Yes, Director Cerna.
Thank you. Could you go back to the matrix, the scoring matrix, please?
Yes.
I always get a little concerned when I see such large differences in bid prices. So can you explain, can you explain why there is a $100 million difference between the third and the first?
I'll do my best. Approach and risk tolerance perhaps is part of it. And so let me back up 1 second. The engineer's estimate, for this project, what we were targeting internally was about $125 million. Of that, so the prices you're looking at here, remember, they include the DB price, the price to finish design and construct it. That's what our engineer's estimate is based on, that and the 1 year of operations. Also embedded in there are some pretty high cost maintenance and extended warranty contracts. So when we specifically talk about the design build price and the 1 year commissioning, Amoresco actually came in pretty much right on top of our engineer's estimate. It wasn't, I think some of the higher cost on the other teams could be attributed to how they view the unknown of inflation right now. We've seen that skyrocket. So I think part of the discrepancy largely could be attributed to just how comfortable these different teams were with attributing risk over the long term of this project. We're a couple years out still, and there's a lot of a lot of equipment to purchase.
When you're evaluating these bids, are you looking? Do the bidders provide some level of detail, line item detail about contingency? Do they share that with you? What they factor in?
No, we look at this as a fixed price design build, and minus betterments if we've done our jobs well, limited change orders for that. So what they were tasked to do was sign on to what they were comfortable with as a fixed price to deliver the project.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Director Kaplan?
Thank you, and thank you, Director Cerna. That was kind of the basis of one of my concerns and questions, especially in construction when you see such a wide. So can you confirm, as design build is slightly different and the design team works together with the contractor, that there was a constructability review of the designs?
That was done by our owner advisor, Brown and Caldwell, as they assisted our evaluators.
So they looked for any conflicts in the designs, doing, I guess you could look at them building information modeling so that they plugged it in to avoid any conflicts within the designs?
Correct. We took the design, the plans, the drawings provided by each of the teams, and that was evaluated and then shared with our evaluation team as part of our internal evaluation. We spent a good month evaluating these proposals. It's a really large commitment from all these teams. They're bringing a $130 million project to 10% plus design and signing off on that price. So yeah, we did a thorough evaluation of what was presented to us from each team.
And then I think it actually is important because with construction contracts, it would be built in for what is natural disaster, what is considered inflation, and potential change orders. So I think that's important because in construction, when you see a big swing like this, sometimes they make it up in change orders or items that were not viewed prior to. But what I'm hearing you say is you've gone through the initial designs and that should be mitigated. So we're really obligated to 179 unless there's something else built into the contract we're not aware of.
That is correct.
Okay. I would just caution because, inflation, dot the i's, cross the t's, which I'm sure your legal counsel is doing on how they've put it in there. It is just a little disconcerting for the wide swing in construction costs on this.
I know I know Amoresco is watching today, and we have not met with them yet. We have that meeting scheduled for next week, and this will be one of the things we talk about.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Director Karpinski-Koska.
Thank you, Chair. You said something on the selected project page, and it flew by me. I read the 2,287-page agenda, and I did not remember reading that we did not have the we did not have the 4 option for all fuel cells, and you just said there were no proposals for all fuel cells. Okay, that's what you, correct?
Correct.
So my question is, the next line, it says, future hydrogen capability through fuel cell trigeneration. So that means, should hydrogen become available as an alternative source, we could only convert one fuel cell, and these 4 internal combustion engines would need to be...
So we...
I mean, you're looking at the future of, what's happening with energy.
We intend to, for energy production purposes, we will be biogas, our recycled gas will be input to the engines and the fuel cell to make energy. The fuel cell takes that biogas, and as a step to they make hydrogen with our biogas as an input for energy production. They also have a mode, fuel cell energy has a mode on their fuel cells that's called trigeneration. It allows energy production at about 60% of the fuel cell's capacity, with the remainder hydrogen output. And one of the promises we made to your board, because we know that there's a interest not to preclude us from joining and participating in the hydrogen market in the future, we wanted to keep that option open. We'll be working with the Air District, other stakeholders. We'll keep attuned to that market, learn as biogen's being implemented, and I'm sure at some point in the future be making some considerations on that front.
So more than one fuel cell was not an option?
Not with the proposals received. We were impartial on technology. You had to meet minimum requirements with engines or fuel cells or both. And then the open market played its role, and I've described what we received.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions at this point? Okay.
All right. Almost there. Going to shift gears to CEQA, and I'm going to keep this pretty brief. Just want to note that all potentially significant impacts associated with the project would be reduced to less than significant with mitigation that Regional SAN has agreed to adopt, and there are no significant and unavoidable environmental impacts that will occur with the proposed project. So we're recommending that your board adopt the resolution for today's item, and in doing so, your board will be accomplishing the following: certifying the environmental document as adequate and complete, approving the proposed project, and adopting findings of facts and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. If your board does approve this, we do plan to come back in December, and we're going to be seeking to delegate authority to the district engineer to execute the final design build agreement with district council approval. And with that, I can take any additional questions.
Great, thank you. Steve, can all 4 of those items be accomplished in one motion?
Yes, adopt the resolution.
Okay, Director Kaplan.
Thank you. So just to confirm, when you come back in December with the final contract, we're expected to see the $175 million, or will the price change?
If we bring a price change, I hope it could potentially be in a downward motion. We have some ideas based on our current gas production on how we might be able to reduce some of the maintenance contracts, the long-term maintenance contracts, because our gas production is not going to require, it's not going to put the hours on the engines that were anticipated right off the bat.
Okay, thank you. I'll make the motion.
Great, thank you. All right, I have a motion from Director Kaplan, a second from Director Villegas. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. And we did not have any public comment on that item, is that correct?
No, sir, we did not have any public comment, and the motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item number 5, please.
These are your consent matters. You're acting as the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and the Sacramento Area Sewer District, items 5 and 6.
Okay, any questions on items 5 or 6? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Desmond, a second from Suen. Or do we have any public comments on this consent calendar?
No, we do not.
Okay, we'll move to a vote then.
I'm sorry, let me get the vote back up. Member Villegas? Thank you. And the motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, very good. Item number 7 is a receive and file, or does the director have any comments?
Just one.
Okay.
Our next meeting is on October 11th, and a long, long time ago, we talked about having a meeting off-site at our headquarter building in or near Rancho Cordova. So our meeting on October 11th is out at our Gady facility. It's on Gady Road. We'll provide some information as we get a little closer, just on directions, so you know where to go. Parking's free and plentiful, and so we'll look forward to seeing you out there. And that's all I had.
Great, thank you. All right, that concludes business for the Sanitation District members. Moving on to Sacramento Area Sewer District. We have a consent calendar, items 8 through 10.
Correct. And we did receive one public comment for item number 8, and I've also published a revised resolution. There was an incorrect date in the resolution for the effective date, so the effective date would be today instead of the August meeting.
Okay, and thank you for that. We did receive an email calling out the date, and then it mentioned about the designee being able to make changes. Director Dobson, could you maybe explain that just a little bit?
Sure. That is set up because in a set of plans and specs, this is primarily for development, although we apply it to our own projects as well. But it's primarily for the development community. And you just can't describe every situation that will come up in the plans and specs. And so what we do is we have to essentially interpret somewhere where there's a gray area. So if something comes up like that, it would be brought forward and I would make a decision. If I just make that decision, how we have it set up right now, I would then have staff go back and modify the standard specs to include that interpretation. If we don't do it that way, it's not a big deal for staff, but it potentially could delay a developer because we're going to have to wait. It's at least a 6-week process to go back to the board and ask you to make a basically what I would consider to be very small adjustments to the standard specs. We don't make these very often. There's not a history of us making any significant big changes. That's not the purpose of that. So, I would recommend that we keep it the way it is, but obviously it's your board's preference.
Okay. Any further questions on this item or any of the other 2 items? No. Is there a motion to approve consent? Motion from Director Frost, second from Director Desmond. Please vote. This is for sewer area members only.
And just to clarify, there are no public comments in the queue, and I did not receive any requests in person.
Thank you.
Just one more clarification. Just to, our clerk already pointed out the September 27th is the effective date. There are a few dates in there. We will conform everything to being effective September 27th.
Okay. Thank you.
And the motion carries by unanimous vote by those members present.
All right. And the rest of the items are communications received and filed. Unless there's anything else for the good of the order. Seeing none, we're adjourned at 10:14.